All right, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rudd Sports Broadcasting podcast. I am your host, Jeff Rutherforth, and I am as joined by my son, Caleb, joining us from St. Bonaventure University up in New York, Olean, New York. All right, so today, what are we going to bring for you? So, the first edition of the college football bracket was just released earlier this week. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to go through our picks for week 11 in the NFL and who we think will, how we see each of those teams and have a little discussion on that. And maybe we'll get into a little NHL news, um, but we will see if we get that far in this episode. Anyway, so Caleb, how are things up in New York?
Um, they're pretty good. I mean, school's going well. It's really it. It's been a really boring time, especially since finals are coming up in like a month. But then I get to go home for a month and a half, so things to look
True.
forward to.
There you go. All right. So we're going to start with the college football playoff bracket. And Caleb, let's. I know you have some distinct opinions here about that. So, for those that did not get it or did not see the updated projection, the number one overall seed is projected to be Oregon, with number two being Texas, followed by BYU and Miami. Now, those four teams will get a bye in the first round of the college football playoff if nothing were to shift. If they were to start today, that's how they would stack out. Then your fifth seed is Ohio State, followed by Indiana, Penn State. Penn State, then Indiana, then Tennessee, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Alabama is number 10, and then number 12 is Boise State. The biggest surprise out of all of those that are sitting up there right now, to me, is Boise State, because I didn't think they really had that strong of a program, but they must be doing something right up there. So, uh, initial
There,
assessment. What are your thoughts? Who's not in that probably should be in?
uh, I'm gonna comment on the Boise State thing. They have one big thing going right up there. His name is Ashton Jeanty. And
Okay.
he's like borderline breaking Barry Sanders' record. So that he is like the sole reason that offense is the way it is. But when it comes, I feel like the 12 teams right now are probably the 12 teams that should make it. Notre Dame for me is kind of not someone I love seeing there just because they did lose to Northern Illinois. And I know that was week 2, but it's hard to forget a loss like that, especially with how badly they lost to Northern Illinois. And when you lose to a team from the MAC, it's hard to, even if that was their only loss, it'd be hard for me to look at them and say they're a playoff team.
No, I can see that. I think they haven't been blowing people away. They haven't been I mean, they've had some good games. Uh, the thing that I found most surprising about this whole thing is you have one, two, three, four, five Big Ten teams in the top in the 12 teams CFP. So um, that's kind of interesting to me that you got that many Big Ten teams. Um, you know, eh, and unfortunately, one of the things that I don't like about the uh, college football playoff bracket here, uh, the one thing that kind of gets me is that if you play in one of the Power Five conferences, you can still lose a game and still make it, but yet you have a team like, let's say, Army, right? Army's 9-0. They've been blowing people away, but because of the conference they play in, they just don't have the strength of schedule of some of these other ones. So you've got, you know, Alabama's a 2-loss team that's going to make it in. Um, for some reason, Indiana is 10-0. They're probably going to win the Big Ten. Yet, I'm sorry, Oregon might win the Big Ten. We'll see. But um, I mean, they're not ranked as high as I think they should be either in that on where they played out. So, where at what point does, strength of schedule um, you know, give us become a factor that some teams just can't play because they don't have the ability to draw those bigger schools to play them even in a non-conference game early on in the season. Like if Army were able to pull in a team like, say, Miami, right, or go down and play Miami, that would give them some uh, strength of schedule to add to their repertoire, if you will.
I think your biggest strength of schedule person is SMU. Like your biggest strength of schedule miss, and a team that is going to miss completely based off strength of schedule is SMU, because they just haven't played the teams, and they do only have one loss, and they are playing in a power conference this year, but they're playing the worst power conference. And if you're playing in a conference like the ACC and you don't have a name like Miami, it's going to be hard to make it in. And Miami's the only playoff team from the ACC, and despite being a one-loss power conference team, SMU is still just outside as a second team out. So I feel like that's where you see that strength of schedule come into play, as Georgia's the first team out, and you have two lost teams like Alabama and Ole Miss who both play in the SEC, who are above SMU because that is a better conference, and that is the better – they have played better teams. Despite having that one extra loss, that's where you see that strength of schedule problem. You're still muted.
Thank you. So, yeah, I think, when you start looking, I think it has to go back to that. But here's the question. How much weight now is given to conference champions? Now, let's say a team like, let's say Minnesota somehow, this is not going to happen because they're not that good. But let's just say the Gophers go on a tear, win the conference. They're too far down as a 3-loss team to be able to make it into that top 12. So I think that's one of the problems. And I mean, you can't continue to expand it, right? Like, I mean, if you expand the more you expand the college football playoff, unless every bowl game becomes a playoff, and you have the same teams that are playing. You know what I mean?
Well,
It
so
kind of like you can't go to 64 teams, but you might be able to go to 32. But then you'd be losing a lot in some of your bowl games.
well, the top 5 conference champions will make it, no matter what conference they're from, and that's where right now there's a chance that LSU makes it in. I mean, makes it into the SEC championship game, and Army goes undefeated. If LSU were to win out and make the SEC championship game and win it, and Army goes undefeated, which includes beating Notre Dame in 2 days, they would then Army would be in and LSU would be out because Army is ranked above LSU and they would be the fifth highest ranked conference champion. So that's where like you could see some other teams making it in is on some crazy weird uh thing where LSU makes it in. Now LSU is below average this season and got absolutely smoked. Uh, but if they somehow, start figuring out how to play football again, they could make it in to the SEC championship, win the SEC championship. Army just has to beat Notre Dame, and they have nobody because they don't. Their game against Navy doesn't count, and towards it, and that's the only other team in their conference I think can beat them would be Navy, and their game against Navy doesn't even count towards anything. So you really have Army's game against Notre Dame being their line between an undefeated season for a military school, an undefeated season, and having that one loss that completely knocks them out of contention no matter what. So, I know I kind of got talking about their game this week, but that is a really important game for Army. Notre Dame blew the brakes off of Navy. I don't know what I don't know the final score off the top of my head, but that's kind of what I expect to happen tomorrow or in 2 days.
They didn't play Navy yet. They played Air Force and they beat them 20-3. I mean, their
I'm
closest
talking
game
Notre Dame.
was
Notre Dame is the team that Army plays this weekend,
right.
And Notre Dame blew out Navy already, and I have a feeling that's going to happen this weekend. Is that Notre Dame's going to destroy Army too? But if Army can hold them off, I see Army going undefeated. Notre Dame is the only team I think that can stop Army right now. If Army goes undefeated, there's a chance Boise State loses a couple. There's a chance. Well, really, it's just Boise State that stands in their way. And Boise State's really the only other team keeping them out of the conference. If Boise State loses and somehow doesn't win their conference championship, it automatically goes to Army if Army can win the American. Now, if both those teams lose their conference championship game, then there's a lot more that needs to be discussed. Can Tulane win the American? Can other group of 5 teams win their conferences? But right now it's seeming like it's either Boise State or Army as that group of 5 team that gets in. Unless LSU can win the SEC, and then you could see 2 group of 5 teams. But that gets really confusing really fast.
You're right about that too. And I want to say this. So Eastern Carolina was Army's closest game, and that was 45-28. That's just how much Army has been blowing their competition away this year. This is maybe one of the best Army teams I've ever seen, definitely that I've seen in a long while. So
that's why this is going to be a huge test with Notre Dame this week. Notre Dame is another ranked school. It's going to be I think it might be Army's first ranked game of the season. And
it is.
They haven't played a team like Notre Dame yet. And that's what we saw with Navy. Navy looked just as good as Army. Oh my God, they might go undefeated. And then they got absolutely destroyed by Notre Dame.
Right.
So I do see that happening again. My pick this weekend would definitely be Notre Dame. No part of me is picking Army this weekend. But if Army can beat Notre Dame, there is multiple different opportunities for them to make the college football playoffs, but they have to win this week.
Oh, that's true. I think my biggest thing is going to be, whether or not they can. So I don't think the top 12 is going to shift that much. But we do have 2 more weeks of football, We got this week, and then we got conference championship week. Um, which it may shift some things, and like you said, the biggest one is going to be what happens between Notre Dame and Army. I think that's going to be the biggest chance for there to be a shift in the 12-team projection. All right. So, any other thoughts on the college football scene, or do we want to we're ready to go switch gears to uh, NFL football?
I'm good with switching up.
Okay. All right. So Thursday night game, kickoff just started. I am not watching it, so I don't know what's happening right
It's 0-0.
now. Uh, that's because it probably just kicked off like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, there's 8
Uh,
minutes left in the first.
so a lot of people aren't giving the Commanders a chance in this game, and I fail to understand why they think the Eagles are going to blow them away. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it can go either way. I do think the Commanders have a lot more to prove, and so a lot more to play for. And for the Eagles, I think Jalen Hurts is starting to play like 2022 Jalen Hurts, which is what's helped them kind of revive their season because they were struggling for a while there when he was hanging back in the pocket and not as willing to pull it down and take off when he's been through his progressions and they weren't there. Um, Whereas I think as of late, the last few games I've been able to watch, he's been more willing to pull it down and just run for the yardage he needs. Um, that being said, um, Jaden Daniels is on another planet right now as far as the way he's playing as a rookie. Um, he's not making a ton of mistakes. I mean, he's making some rookie mistakes, game to game, but nothing that is costing them a game. By far, definitely going to be the rookie of the year. We talked about that last week. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the Commanders to take this one, especially because the line on this I think was the Eagles by 4, and I just don't think it's. I don't think the Eagles are going to cover that. I think it's going to come down to a field goal. But I'm going to pick the Commanders to get the upset in Lincoln Field.
I mean, there's not much to say that you didn't on that. I mean, the Commanders are the better team. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. No part of me is picking the Eagles over the Commanders any day of any week. The Commanders are my pick tonight, and it'll stay that way until the Commanders prove that they aren't a team that – I don't think either of the teams in this game are contenders, but the Commanders are already really, really good team this season, and they're led by Jaden Daniels, who is my favorite quarterback in the league, and I love watching him play, and
And
that's
not to
really it.
mention, they also got Robinson back to this week, so uh, at running back. So with
Thank
B.J.
God for my
Robinson.
fantasy team.
So, so with Robinson back in the mix, that's another factor, right? Because now the game is not one dimensional for the Commanders, where either Jaden Daniels is going to run it or he's going to throw to Scary Terry.
Hey, that's still two-dimensional. If you have Jaden Daniels as your quarterback, you could have 0 running backs and still have a two-dimensional offense.
True, but it can't be an every down play for him to scramble. You're going to hurt the kid. All
True.
right, gonna move on. Packers Bears. Okay, so I don't think I have some opinions about the Bears. First of all, you got how has uh what's the Chicago's coach's name? Uh
Mike Eberflus.
Eberflus. Eberflus, yeah. How has he kept his job? He's been through 2 offensive coordinators. That's obviously not the problem. Caleb Williams is not who they thought they were getting. And part of that's because he never had the development. And the thoughts now I think Eberflus has lost the locker room because there are players calling for Caleb Williams to be benched. But what? Who are you going to bench him for? He doesn't have a backup.
Nick
So
Foles. I
I don't
think their
think Foles
backup's
is.
Nick Foles.
I,
I
I'm
need
gonna
to
have
do
to look
some research real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up because I don't. Um, I think the Chicago depth chart has.
They have to
Well,
have a backup, so
they have a backup. That's not what I'm saying.
I know.
But
I just don't know who it is, which
that's
is the same thing you don't. Now we're just rambling on trying to figure out who the backup quarterback to the Chicago Bears is.
exactly. Um. Anyway, so at quarterback, it's Tyson Baggett.
Oh yeah, I benched him for Justin Fields on my Madden franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
benched Justin Fields for him on 24. I know that kid.
yeah. So well, I'm glad you do because I don't think anybody else in the NFL knows who he is. So my point is that really going to be your guy? You know what I mean? So um, I just think Chicago, you know, it, call your season tanked. I mean, Green Bay is going to run away with this game. I think if Green Bay doesn't win by 10 plus, I'd be really surprised. The only thing that might save them is the fact that this is at Soldier Field. So, but there's not a chance that Chicago wins this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. This is all Packers. The Bears are not winning that game. There's not much to say about it either. I can
Yeah.
try to just ramble on and make stuff up here, but
Yeah.
it's really just Packers are going to win that game. No, not really a
Hands
question
down.
about it.
Yeah. All right. Another NFC North game. Detroit Lions hosting the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars with Mac Jones at quarterback, who looked
Yes,
absolutely stunning against the Vikings.
Lawrence finally gets
Stunningly bad.
sit. Yeah, the Jaguars are horrendous, and the Jaguars should lose it on purpose the rest of the season and just get Travis Hunter in the draft because you bench your quarterback, you bench your highest paid quarterback in the league. The Jaguars are just an abysmal football team this season. They're the worst team in football. They're projected to have the number one pick. They should have the number one pick. And the Lions are the best team in football, so we get to see both sides. And normally, when you have a best team playing a worst team, the worst team loses by like 45. So,
Well, I don't know if it's going to be that bad because Matt Goff looked pretty horrendous against Houston. I mean, yeah, they came back. I know they came back and won it. He came back in crunch time, but 5 interceptions in one game. That's I don't know.
that's how you know how good that team is, though. Is that you can play a solid team like the Texans, throw 5 interceptions, and still win the game.
True. I was saying the Vikings routed Houston, just to throw that out there. All right. So enough about that one. I think we both agree the Lions are going to win. All right, Vegas at Miami. So I'm going to tell you, I think Miami, after the way they played last week. First of all, I've got the Raiders losing in this game to Miami for sure, because it's in Miami anyway. But I'm going to say the way they played against the Rams, they held them to, they were able to get that win and kind of kept even though their season's on life support right now, if Tua stays healthy, you never know what they could do because their defense is actually not that bad. And their defense is getting healthier. They're getting some guys out of the hospital and getting them back on the field. So there might be a chance for them, but it's a really long outside chance. But I'm going to go with Miami in this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Miami too. Not really much to say about this one either. It's just Miami has not been a great team this year, and the Raiders have also been a really bad team this year, but the Raiders are definitely the worst team, and I feel like that just leaves the answer to be the Dolphins.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next matchup on the list, which is the LA Rams versus the New England Patriots. Go ahead, Caleb. What are your thoughts?
The Rams are going to destroy them. The
Okay.
Patriots are horrible, and I'm also a Bills fan, so you made a mistake letting me talk first and talk about the Patriots. The Patriots are horrible. They're like the third worst team in football behind the Jaguars and the Panthers, and they're abysmal. And the Rams aren't. The Rams also aren't good, but they're not bad. They're a very mid team, but mid is still better than absolutely horrendous. So yeah, go Rams. And the Patriots suck.
Okay. Well, I am going to I this is going to be the first one I disagree with you on. So I actually think New England's going to come out of this one. I mean, Drake May's played much better over the last uh few games. He's, showcased some upside with this being his debut season. Um I think they have a shot to beat the Rams, especially if the same Rams team that showed up against Miami uh shows up in at Foxborough. So I think that so I'm going to go with the Patriots to win this one just because I'm not sure what the LA Rams are. One week they're hot, the next week they're as cold as the Arctic. So I just don't trust that, and I think at least with New England, you know what you're getting, and I think New England on a above average day beats the Rams on a bad day.
Fair.
Okay. Cleveland Browns at New Orleans Saints. So, I don't know. this this is a rough one. I mean, I think the Saints win this one. Uh, but I because it's the Browns. And the Browns are not a good team in my opinion. I think but Winston is playing much better than his predecessor. So we'll see uh, if he can resurrect them in this game. They're not beating a team like the Ravens, but they might be able to sneak one out against the Saints. But I'm going to go with the Saints with Kamara to beat the Cleveland, especially because it's in New Orleans.
Yeah, I agree that I think the home stadium's the only reason the Saints are winning that game. The Browns are bad, and there's no real going around it. They have been for decades. They've been bad for about a century now, and they'll continue to be bad for another century. The Browns are horrible, and the Saints are also pretty bad this season, but they're not the Browns, and the game's in the dome. So
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, they of course don't have you know, Derek Carr doesn't have that much to throw to. He's just got himself and Kamara. I mean, he got Taysom Hill there, but uh, with Olave out, that hurts too. All right, we're gonna move on. Ravens and Pittsburgh. So
game of the
I'll let
week.
I'll let you go. I think it is the game of the week. I think this is going to. They're the two games of the week are Washington, Philly, which is ongoing now, and the other one is Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Um, Kind of funny that they're both I-95 series. Well, I guess Pittsburgh's not technically an I-95 series, but you get the point. uh, so go ahead. I'll let you make your pick first before I talk my piece.
Uh, I said it last week. I'll say it again. I think the Steelers are coming out of the North, and that's really where my pick is. I think this game decides the North. They do play again, but this one in Baltimore definitely could be Baltimore's game. I think Pittsburgh plays hard. I think it's a really, 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 really close game. Uh, I don't like any Pittsburgh sports teams. Anyone who knows me knows that. But I'm still taking Pittsburgh in this game because they just have shown to be a really strong team this year. They might not have the best quarterback situation in the world, but they've made up for it so far this year. They'll continue making up for it. They have one of the best coaches in history. I'm taking the Steelers.
Okay. Well, that's fair. It's a good assessment. I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going with the Ravens. Ravens are favored by 3. I think they cover, only because I'm still not convinced that Pittsburgh is not a pretender. Not to say they're not going to make the playoffs. I liken them to the Vikings in that the Vikings are a good team, but they're not a Super Bowl caliber team. I mean, but you still have an MVP quarterback on the other side, and he's probably going to win the MVP again with Lamar Jackson. I think that's the difference. Plus, with Derrick Henry, it's kind of a 1-2 punch. Rashad Bateman's been picking it up for the Ravens. So offensively, I think that's going to be, and I don't think Russell Wilson can take advantage of the 32 ranked pass defense in the league. I think it's going to be a shootout, and I think ultimately this game is going to come down to Justin Tucker's foot. You know, because I think it's going to come down to a last-minute field goal. I think it's going to be close because it's in Pittsburgh, right? So, but I go with the Ravens. All right. Sliding down the East Coast into the center to Nashville, Tennessee. Vikings playing the Titans. So you already know what my pick is going to be, so I'll let you talk first on this one. You're muted. Yep.
There we go. It was like bouncing around over here. Yeah. The Vikings are a good team and the Titans aren't. And that's really where I know I've been kind of like dry on talking about this, but this week's games, other than when you see like Washington and Philly and Baltimore and Pittsburgh, are kind of not really close games. And it's hard to really make it seem like something that's not when you have teams like the Vikings and teams like the Titans. Titans are a really bad team. They still haven't benched Will Levis. Will Levis will keep playing for them and keep having a picture every single week of him doing something stupid. He is the worst quarterback I've ever seen play football and start an entire season. I have to add that last part. And start an entire season without getting benched. Sam Darnold has gone back to Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold is still better than Will Levis. So give me the Vikings by a lot. I don't even know what the line is. Just give me them by like 100.
The line is
or
Vikings by 6 is the line.
Yeah,
I think
definitely covering that.
Well, I would have said they would have covered it too last week because they were favored by 7 over Jacksonville, and they were not close. They couldn't put an offensive touchdown on the board. Now, some of that was bonehead plays by Sam Darnold. Like you said, Sam Darnold is becoming like he's turning into a pumpkin before our eyes. But I think he's correctable. I think KOC can correct him because if you go back and you watch the Jacksonville game, the Vikings moved the ball at will until they got to the 25. And then Sam Darnold started forcing stuff. That led to the interceptions, the fumbles, the first one I'm not going to blame on Sam Darnold because Justin Jefferson had that in his hand. He just didn't catch it, tipped it up, and it got picked off. Okay. But you're right. I think Sam Darnold on his worst day still beats Tennessee because Tennessee's just not very good. But with that, Sam Darnold's way I look at it, Sam Darnold is going to should be able to get the Vikings to uh, 9-2 before they have to play Arizona or Atlanta, I think. Um, and he's going to have a couple games to correct his problems. He's got this week, and then he's got next week against the Bears to correct his mental issues on the field uh, before he has to play some stiffer competition.
My my
All
own,
right.
my only thought on that game too is I do think Tennessee is a better team than Jacksonville. So with how close the game was against Jacksonville, you could technically say the Titans could come out on top because Jacksonville is the worst team in the league and is horrible, and the Vikings couldn't beat them by the amount they should have.
But they moved the ball at will, and I think they're going to do the same thing this week. Um, I just think Sam Darnold's got to be a little smarter with the ball when he gets inside the red zone. All right, so moving on, Indianapolis and the Jets. So if you would have asked me this question 2 days ago, I tell you the Jets are going to win this because I just think Joe Flacco is not that good, and apparently uh, that is also agreed upon by the Colts staff because today they announced that Anthony Richardson would be starting against the Jets. So that kind of changes things. So I think Richardson will be able to give Indy a chance in this game. Ultimately, though, I think Aaron Rodgers, he's got Adams there now. Um, I think, and then of course you got Brees Hall. It's does that offset a Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson? And I think it does. I think the Jets win this one, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than I originally thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Richardson might quit halfway through the game. There's always that. I mean, they're the Colts are a train wreck right now. They're a good train wreck. Like, I believe they're technically a playoff team right now. No, because Denver and the Chargers are above them. But they're a borderline playoff team right now, and they're a train wreck. And their quarterback quit, got a bye week, a free bye week because they started Flacco, and now he's going to be back in. And I just feel like mentally, even if you are in your second season, you are a professional athlete, and quitting that just shows that you don't have mental toughness, in my opinion. Something that you definitely need, especially as a quarterback. So
Yeah.
going against when you don't have a great wide receiver core and you have to throw against the secondary of the Jets, when you have the best cornerback in football playing against you, I don't think he has a mental toughness to overcome that. And I don't think it's going to be a close game because Anthony Richardson just isn't who he was. And I think he's too scared to play football because of his injuries and because of everything. I think as soon as he gets tired, he's going to not play at full power or he's going to tap out again.
I don't think he'll tap out again. He got a lot of flack for that one. I think, but the point is, other than so Josh Downs is going to be covered by Sauce Gardner, 1-on-1. That's an easy matchup for Gardner. I don't think there's any chance that Downs is going to be open. So he's going to have to find other options to dump the ball off to. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. All right. So you're picking the Jets?
Yes, by a lot.
All right. Broncos Falcons. So this is an interesting matchup. I'm gonna go first on this one because I think we're gonna differ here. Um, I'm going with Denver, but I'm not going with Denver for the reason you think. No, this
because you
is
don't
not an
like Kirk
anti.
Cousins.
No, this is not an anti Kirk Cousins thing. All right, this is a better defense. I think that I think the defense of the Broncos. So last week, Arrowhead Stadium, Denver held Pat Mahomes to one touchdown. So if the defense is that good to stop up the KC defense or offense, then what's to say that Kirk Cousins is going to do better than Pat Mahomes did against the same defense? And I just don't think he does. He doesn't even have the same weapons Kirk Cousins doesn't to be able to go. And Bo Nix has been looking better and better as the season has gone along. I mean, he hasn't been Jaden Daniels good, but he's looking better. So
Yeah,
I'm going to go with Denver, and I'm going to say Denver by 5.
yeah, you were definitely right in the differentiating. I do still think it's a Kirk Cousins thing, despite you saying it wasn't. Uh, the KC offense is not better than the Falcons offense. The KC offense is horrible, and Patrick Mahomes is not playing like Patrick Mahomes until the fourth quarter. Then he's playing like Patrick Mahomes, but he's just lucky it hasn't been too late in a game yet. And that's why I'm taking the Falcons because, one, Kirk Cousins is like my favorite quarterback in the league. Not my favorite, but definitely like top 5. So I might be taking bias. And I know you hate Kirk Cousins, but I would definitely take – I'm definitely taking the Falcons because Denver is a playoff team, and I do think Denver is good enough to make the playoffs. I just don't think the win they need is coming this week.
Okay. Uh, Fair. Okay. All right. So our next matchup, and this one's a gimme. It's in Levi Stadium. 49ers versus Seahawks. I'll let you talk on this one first, but I'm pretty sure we're both going to agree on the outcome of this game.
Give me CMC. That's all I have to say. Give me CMC. And
Yep.
over.
Yep. All day. Plus, they get they're going to get Jennings back. They're going to get and they got Debo back, I believe. So, I mean, Brock Purdy's got his full complement of offensive power back on the field now, especially with CMC. And I mean, the Seahawks are well, they're the best train wreck in the league right now. Is the best thing I can say because they are not that good. What are they? 4-5, but they play like they're 1-8. Um, Everybody kind of praised Geno Smith early on and the way he played early on in the season because they were 3-0. Yeah, but who did they play? They didn't play anybody, good. Um, and so meanwhile, San Francisco, yes, they're fighting for their spot in the West, but San Francisco historically starts slow and then turns it on at the end of the season. So I think this is the point where they got to gas up and they got to go on a run because they still have to overtake the Cardinals for the West. So I'm going with the Niners as well. You're muted.
I just said, yeah. I mean,
Oh.
it's obvious.
So this next one I know is near and dear to your heart. Casey at the Bills. I got it. Josh Allen during the
It's the
regular season is 3-1 against Patty Mahomes. I understand.
it's the regular season. Give me Buffalo.
However, the problem that Buffalo is going to have is they got it. The Chiefs almost in every game have had an extra 7 players on the field, during when Patty Mahomes is on the field. So, uh, you know, is are you guys able to defeat 18 players? That's going to
Yes.
be the question. Uh, I want so badly to pick the Bills in this game, but I still got to go with KC. I got to go with the Chiefs. I just feel like for whatever reason, even though the Bills are favored by 2, and I think it is going to be a close game. Uh, but you know, it depends. I feel like the refs have made have given some extra attention for the Chiefs a couple times this year, and I think that's given them a couple wins possibly. So I'm going to say Kansas City is the refs are going to find a way to give Kansas City another win.
Yeah, I talk crap about the refs all the time, but there are a few calls like the PI call against the Bengals that a lot of people disagree with, and I don't. However, there has been more than enough bad calls going towards KC, and it's not really not obvious that there has got to be at least a slight bias. You don't just make these mistakes as a ref. And with how often they're happening, they're not mistakes at this point. I'm still taking Buffalo because it's a regular season and, the Chiefs suck and Buffalo doesn't. And I'm going to take Buffalo as the regular season. Josh Allen has his number in the regular season. Like you said, 3-1. Keep it going. I don't care about the rest. We're going to beat them by more than the rest can handle. So I'm once again not going to watch the game because I watched 3 games this season, and we won our game against Jacksonville that I watched, and the other 2 games I watched, we lost. So I'm done watching our games. I made that decision after our second loss. So I will not be watching, but I will have people in my ear during my hockey game telling me scores and stuff. And the answer for me is definitely Buffalo because, well, I can't not choose them right now.
All right. No, that I understand. Cincinnati going to SoFi to play the Chargers. That's an interesting matchup. Um, I still think Justin Herbert's able to pull it out. I think the Chargers win this one. Chargers are currently favored by 1.5. Um, the over/under on this is 48. I don't think there's going to be 48 points in this game, but because I don't think either offense is that good. But you never know. Joe Burrow could, go on a tear. But I am going to ride with I'm going to ride with the Chargers in this one to beat the Bengals by a touchdown. I mean, not a touchdown, but by a field goal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Cincinnati, and I have one reason for it, and that is the Chargers always find a way to not make the playoffs. And that means taking wins against bad teams, and they don't do it. And that's why I think this is going to be one of those games that gets you dropped by Miami. And, I mean, not Miami, LA, my bad. Yeah. But this is going to be one of those games against a bad team that the Chargers lose. And that's just straight up how it works. They do it every single year. They don't make the playoffs because they lose games they should win. This is one of those games that my heart of hearts knows that the Chargers should win it. But I don't think they're going to.
Oh, Justin Burrow and Jamar Chase. I don't know. You're right. You're right. There's enough firepower there. I just don't know if. But you're right. The Chargers should win, but that doesn't mean they will because that's why we play the games, right? All right, Monday night, Dallas and Houston. I don't even know if we have to pick this one. Of course, Dallas is going to win. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, Houston wins this one going away. They're currently favored by 7. I think they're going to win by way more than that. If they don't win by 13, 14 points, I'd be surprised because Dallas is atrocious, uh, both defensively and offensively. They are not good. So I think Texans win this one easily, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Dak's out for the season, and that was their really only bright spot. Like, as much as people want to hate on Dak Prescott, as soon as he was out for the season, everybody started saying that it was over for the Cowboys. It kind of already was over for the Cowboys, but now it's really over for the Cowboys.
Yeah, but they got Johnny Mingo.
Yeah. The team that should have sold at the deadline and did because their GM is Jerry Jones, and he is old, and I'm pretty sure he has dementia or something. And forgot how
That
to
might not be.
forgot how to run a team. But Jerry Jones needs to retire because he is ruining that team, and the Texans are going to win. There's no way Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, both of them proceeded to somehow look horrible in the exact same game. Don't ask me how you can have two quarters. Normally, if you bring in your backup, they can at least, put on a show for at least a game. It's that backup quarterback magic. Trey Lance did not have that. That was two horrible quarterbacks just trading off every drive. And they don't have a quarterback that I don't even think they're going to win a single game. Neither of those two quarterbacks can win a game, an NFL game. It just can't happen.
Well, so you go back to that one though, but CeeDee Lamb dropped that ball, but when you go back and look at it, the sun was in his eyes. So maybe you
It
have to
was. Let's
maybe
go
they
back
have
to blaming Jerry Jones.
how about well, we're not going to restructure his $1 billion stadium, okay? But maybe you plan accordingly because you know when the sun sets because that's your home stadium that you make sure that you turn the field around at the right time so that your opposition has the sun in their eyes instead. Home field advantage for a
I
reason
don't
and
know.
it backfired.
My thing is they've covered those windows up for concerts because they don't want people to not be able to see the performer, and they also want the performer to be able to see. So like they've closed it. They've covered those windows for concerts. They've covered those windows for other things. But yet
But not for a
Jerry
football game.
Jones can't. But Jerry Jones can't cover it, and as much as nobody is blaming that on CeeDee Lamb. I've never seen anything. The only person I've seen blamed for that loss is Jerry Jones, which is weird because he's obviously not playing in the game, and he's not even a coach. He's the general manager and owner of that team. He's bad, and he needs to retire. He was good about 40 years ago, and he needs to stop now.
That's right.
Because
Mike McCarthy is going to be finding a new place to live after this season, so we'll see.
he was supposed to find a new place to live after last season. Jerry Jones said he would fire him if he didn't get a playoff win. He didn't get that playoff win, and yet Mike McCarthy's still there.
Well,
So, I
there were
mean, that just shows Jerry Jones is forgetful
well,
and
you might.
forgets that he has a sunny field.
So yeah, so I'm gonna go to the off season here real quick. So this is what I see happening. McCarthy's gonna lose his job, and I think so the Vikings were able to hold on to Brian Flores one more year as a defensive coordinator. He's gonna get a head coaching gig next year, and I think it's gonna be in Dallas. He's going to get his second shot at being a head coach. Brian Flores will, and I bet you it's in Dallas because uh, they are probably the ones that will make the most out of his mind and his schemes. But I could be wrong. We'll see. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I don't know who's taking over from Mike McCarthy's definitely not going to be the coach of Dallas next year, though. I can tell you that wholeheartedly. Jerry Jones has never once had a problem with firing coaches, and it's not going to be any different right now. Mike
Yeah.
McCarthy will not have a job in Dallas next year.
Well, I think there's at least three or four uh, head coaches that are going to lose jobs this season. After this season, I think McCarthy's one of them. I think Ever Eberflus, if he's not gone by the end of the season, he will be come January. I think Jacksonville, who's down there now. I think he's
Doug
gonna. I think
Peterson.
yeah, Doug Peterson's gonna lose his job. Um, I don't know if Carolina's coach is gonna go, but we'll. That'll be interesting because Doug Peterson is.
Maybe Jacksonville should just go hire Urban Meyer again.
Yo,
Oh, that's
chill out. Chill out.
so.
Chill out.
All right. So, well, that's all I've got for this podcast today. Caleb, any closing comments?
No,
All right.
not really. I mean, we covered
Okay.
everything, I think.
All right. Well, next week we will bring you our picks yet again. This is going to be kind of our weekly thing during the NFL season, at least. And then next week we'll talk a little bit about the NHL and where things stand now that we're almost a quarter of the way through the NHL season. We'll have a better idea where things are starting to shake out come throughout the NHL. Well, that's all we've got for you here on Rut Sports Broadcasting for this week. Thank you. Stay safe and take care of one another.